Hello, I'm Refashionista Sheri, and today I'm going to share with you 3 of my favorite upsizes for those items that have maybe gotten a little bit too snug after enjoying all of those Galentine's Day sweets and treats. Let's start off with my most amazing statement sleeve blazer, and I thought we would go in order of most to least difficult here. But you know me, nothing I ever make is difficult because my Refashionista brain just can't handle anything difficult at this point. But look at this, I upsized it, as you can see, and added these amazing statement sleeves. And I think you might be surprised at how easy these sleeves were to create. So let's go see how I did it. For this hopefully a quick and easy project, you'll need your too tight blazer and your gorgeous thrifted evening gown, or I mean any kind of floofy ruffle fabric. Skirts would work as well if they have cool fabric. I mean, just about anything. So yeah, it doesn't have to be this. It can be anything you want it to be, as long as there's enough fabric to create some upsizing panels and your sleeves. Okay, so the very first thing you want to do is flip your blazer inside out. And this one has a lining, which, okay, means it's good quality, but it also means everything is going to take me twice as long because I'm going to have to do the lining as well as the exterior fabric, but that's okay. It'll be worth it. It'll be worth it in the end, I promise. I hope, anyway. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is remove the sleeves with their lining, and I'm going to use my seam ripper simply because I don't want to risk just chopping through any kind of seam that I might need when I'm putting everything back together. Okay, so both of the sleeves have now been removed, and there are shoulder pads in this blazer, but they're not really big. They're not super thick. And so I think I'm actually going to leave them in because they give a nice shape and structure to the shoulders. And I think that's going to be necessary once those big ruffly sleeves are put onto the blazer. Okay, so because this blazer is too tight on me across the chest area, I am going to add some side panels with the dress fabric, so I now need to open up my side seams. Okay, so now I have the sides completely open on both sides of my blazer, and as you can see, it's kind of looking like a mess right now. So what I'm going to do is fold in all of these raw edges and then simply go, stitch everything together. So then I don't have to worry about all of these yucky bits of thread and everything. It'll all be neatly tucked in and stitched together. And then I can get started working on my side panels. Okay, so I have all the sides stitched on my blazer. Now it's time to start working on this dress. And the first thing I'm going to do is chop out the crinoline that it has. And I'm just going to make this into like a skirt that I can then wear under dresses and skirts when I want them to be a little bit more puffy at the bottom. So that's kind of cool. That's a good reuse here. So I'm going to chop out the crinoline, and then I'm going to chop off all of the unnecessary pieces. So I'm just going to be left with the fabric that I'm going to use. Okay, so I have my 2 upsizing inserts completed, and to create these, all I did was chop out a length of the satin fabric that was still remaining here on the bodice, and then I grabbed some pink fabric from my stash because, like you can see, this fabric here is super fraying, so I did go ahead and create 2 tubes using the fabric from my stash plus the satin fabric from the bodice. Okay, now it's time to use these to upsize the sides of my blazer, and it's so super simple. I've done this so many times, putting in fabric panels, so you guys know it's an easy thing to do. So I'm taking the finished edge here of my fabric tube and simply lining it up with the finished edge or hem here of the blazer and putting the right sides facing. So I have my interior fabric facing up and the nice satin fabric facing the right side of the blazer. And now I'm just going to go stitch that together all the way up to the underarm seam, where the underarm seam starts. Remember, because I still got to put my sleeves in there, so I can't stitch any further than that. And then I'm going to go repeat the whole process on the other side. So my sides are upsized, and that definitely looks pretty darn awesome, if I do say so myself. So now let's get started on creating those groovy ruffled sleeves. So after I had removed the bodice from the skirt part of the dress, I did go ahead and stitch the lining and the exterior fabric together just really quickly around the top, just so they weren't slipping, sliding around everywhere. And now I'm folding the skirt part in half just to do a kind of super eyeball measurement here and make sure if I cut it in half, the sleeves are going to be wide enough to go into my armholes. And you know what? That's just about perfect, with a little bit extra for seam allowance, luckily. So now I'm going to cut the skirt part into 2 equal pieces. So after a few hours of struggling and fighting with this annoyingly slippery fabric and my poor old machine, I finally managed to get my sleeves done. So you know what, guys, if you ever are having a struggle-rific time with your fabrics and your machine, it happens to all of us. I had to pick apart seams, redo seams. It was just crazy. But you know what? We're done now. So now I'm going to show you exactly what I did. I basically just cut that skirt right in half and created 2 tubes out of each half of the skirt. And because the bottom part of my sleeves was like too bell-ish, and I know I love bell sleeves, but this was just insane, I did go ahead and add some elastic, which will then be around my wrist like so, just to gather it in, because it was really belling out, and you know, it was going to get caught on every single doorknob. Okay, so finally we can attach the sleeves. Okay, so I have my blazer laying inside part down on my table here, and that is simply because I want to put my right sides together. So I have the right side of the sleeve up against the right side of my blazer, and I'm just gonna pop my sleeve inside my blazer armhole. And you can see here, I did leave a generous amount of my side seam insert here, and I'm just going to sort that all out once the sleeves are on, just in case, for whatever reason, I might need some extra fabric here. Okay, so I'm going to line everything up, and look, it absolutely lines up perfectly. So now I'm simply going to go stitch it together and then repeat it on the other side. Okay, everything is stitched on, and I'm super excited to go put it on my body. So let's go try it on and style it up. Next up is this amazingly cutie patootie ruffled floral trimmed blouse, and I actually created this out of a vintage dress that was incredibly tight on me, and now I have an adorable blouse. Oh, and I had enough trim left over to create matching earrings, so both of those tutorials are coming at you right now. For this hopefully quick and easy upsizing project, all you need is your too tight dress and your sewing gear. So your very first step is to figure out how long you want your soon-to-be finished top to be. And if you have a dress that is all one piece here, like it's not separated into a top and a skirt stitched together, then it's actually pretty easy. You can simply use a shirt that you like the length of, put it on top, and then mark the length, plus a couple centimeters of seam allowance, and then go ahead and chop it to the right size. My dress was actually originally in 2 pieces, and then they stitched those together together with an elastic. So I spent a couple of hours and I very carefully separated the top from the bottom. And when I was taking out this elastic, oh my goodness, it was so old and crusty and dusty. It was absolutely disgusting. Plus, there was also elastic here on the cuff, so I did remove that as well. But definitely, this is an easier project to do if you can simply just chop it and not have to faff about removing the top from the bottom plus a bunch of elastics. So once you have your top and the bottom of your dress separated, then you can set the bottom part aside for now, although we will need it to use to upsize the top. And then you're gonna flip your top inside out and check out those side seams. Now, these are actually quite thick and annoying, and a lot of unpicking needs to be done. So I am simply going to chop out the side seams from the bottom part all the way up through to the bottom of the cuff. So my entire side is going to be open. So I actually chopped out both sides, and then I can open it up, and both of my sides are totally open, and now I can easily attach my inserts. So let's go create them. So the first thing we need to figure out is how long we need our upsizing inserts to be. So for that, you can grab your tailor's measure or a ruler or just eyeball it, because it's refashioning. Do what you want to do. It's all fun in the end anyway. So I grabbed my tailor's measure and I measured from the bottom of the blouse all the way to the sleeve cuff, and that is about 68-ish centimeters. And then I'm going to take that measurement and grab the bottom part of the dress that I chopped off there and measure that, and oh, that is lucky. It is just about the exact length that I need to create my upsizing inserts. So now that I have the length of my upsizing inserts, we can figure out the width. And to be honest with you, I rarely measure this part because I know how I like my tops and blouses to fit, and I can just figure out in my own little Refashionista brain that I'm going to need about 6 to 8 centimeters, but that is going to be entirely 6 to 8 centimeters. So I really only need 3 to 4 centimeters for each piece. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do 5 centimeters, and then that way I have more than enough for seam allowance. So I'm just going to mark this here with a little pin, and then I shall chop out my panels. So now I have 2 pretty even upsizing inserts, and here's a quick Refashionista tip for you. If you are unsure if your inserts are going to be long enough, simply unpick the bottom hem, because this originally was the skirt of the dress, right? So the bottom hem was there, and I just gave myself another few centimeters by unpicking that. And now I have no issue whatsoever that my inserts won't be long enough. So now let's go insert them. So you want to start with your shirt with the right side facing up and laying on a flat surface. Then move it on over so you have free access to one of the open sides. Then simply grab one of your inserts and line it up with the right sides facing. And of course the raw edges lined up here at one end. You can start at the cuff, you can start at the bottom, it really doesn't matter. And then you're just going to line it all up nicely like so, and go stitch that all the way down. I'm going from cuff to the bottom, and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. So I have one of my inserts stitched to one of my open sides, and it is looking fantastic. So let's just flip it down like so, and you can kind of get the idea here of how the insert is just going to be all along the side part here. Very, very easy. So now I have to flip it around and then match up my already stitched on insert with the other open side, and then go stitch that all together, and then repeat the whole process on the other side of the shirt. Now both of my side inserts are in, and the shirt is definitely more than big enough for me now. I am very pleased with this result, and I mean, you can see it just came out so nice. The insert is totally not noticeable at all because I use the same fabric, but this is too short. It would be very, very super duper cropped, so I gotta add something to the bottom. Luckily, I still have lots of this bottom fabric left. I actually have so much that if I wanted to, I could turn it back into a mini dress, but I don't want to do that. What I want to do is add a adorable little ruffle or panel or something to the bottom and also to the cuffs. So let's do that. So you can see here I have my remaining skirt piece laid flat, and I have one side folded over to create the bottom part for my blouse. And I'm being quite generous here because it's very short. So I need to have quite a wide length of fabric to create my bottom part. Now this by itself is wide enough and long enough just to go around, but it won't be ruffled up or anything. So I'm going to chop this piece out, then chop this in half and stitch it together to create a long length, which I will then attach in ruffles around the bottom of my blouse. Well, that's the idea anyway. So I have created my long loop of fabric, and I'm now going to attach it to the bottom of my top. So here's another quick Refashionista tip for you. When you are dealing with vintage or just anything really, make sure that you just do a quick once over of all of the existing seams, because you already have your sewing machine out because you're refashioning. So if you find a seam, like I found this one here on the sleeve that was coming apart, just quickly give it a once over, and then you don't have to worry about it coming apart in the future. So now let's get on to attaching the ruffle. So I'm going to do, of course, what I always do and just attach it using simple pin tucks. So I have my shirt right side out, I have my loop inside out, and I'm going to pop my shirt into my loop so the right sides will be facing, and then I'm going to take the side seam of the loop and I'm going to line it up as best as I can with the side seam area, because there is no side seam anymore, of the blouse here. And I'm going to pin that in place. And then I'm going to repeat that on the other side, so then I know how much fabric I will have to pin tuck along the bottom. So now that I have it all pin tucked together, I can finally go stitch the top to this bottom ruffle and then repeat the process using smaller loops on my sleeve cuffs, because as I said, I want to have little ruffles here too, so I think that's what I'm going to do. But if you're unsure how to do pin tucks, I shall link down below to one of the many tutorials I've already shared on my channel that show exactly the method I use to create my pin tucks. But now I'm going to go stitch it together. So my ruffle is now all stitched on, and I did go ahead and trim up the interior edges with my pinking shears. This fabric isn't really going to fray because it's like 1,000,000% polyester, but precautionary measures are always good to do, especially with vintage fabrics. And you guys, you're not gonna believe what I found in my stash to finish this off. Remember I said I wanted to do ruffles on the sleeves? I did not. I ended up putting on this adorable floral trim that I've had forever. And look, the colors are absolutely perfect. And you know what? I had enough left that I went around the top of my ruffle, so it's like an adorable little belt, and it's all the way around. And I absolutely cannot wait to go try this on and style it up. I still have this much trim left, so I think I'm going to make it into an adorable accessory. So you can see there's exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little flowers here. So I'm going to cut it in half. And now look at that. What can I make out of this, I wonder? Instant earrings. I just grabbed these little faux pearls and I pop it through and look, I have an earring. And I do the same on this side and I have two absolutely adorable earrings that perfectly match my fabulous Refashion new to me shirts. And last but certainly not least is this amazing 80s trench style coat dress that was just tight enough on me to make it incredibly uncomfortable to wear out in public. So I used a surprising ingredient to upsize it. Let's go see exactly what I used and how I did it. It's so simple. For this hopefully quick and easy project, all you need is your too snug dress plus some lengths of fabric that you're going to be using for your upsizing panels. Now you can of course do this technique on trousers, on blouses, on jackets, on just about anything where you can open up the sides and add some panels to give you the extra width you need to make it bigger. Now for mine, I'm actually going to use the belt that this dress came with because I don't need to add a lot and I think this width is just about perfect. So the very first thing I am going to do is very slowly and carefully pick apart the two halves of this belt, and that will leave me with two very long lengths of fabric. Okay, so now I have two super long pieces of fabric, and again, all I had to do was spend actually quite a long time carefully unpicking that belt, and then of course I did go ahead and I ironed those two pieces and got them as flat as I possibly could. So now I'm going to grab the dress and we're going to see how the heck we're going to insert these and make that dress bigger. Okay, so I have the dress and I think I figured out how I can insert my two belt pieces all the way down the sides to make it fit me better. So how I did that is I simply went to the side seam starting at the bottom hem here, and I lined up one end of my chopped belt and I just followed the seam all the way up the side of the dress here. And once then I got to, where are we here? Once I got to the underarm seam, I pinched the belt there to make sure it wasn't going to move because I had to go around the corner, and then took it all the way down the sleeve. And look, there's actually even some excess here. Now I think the best thing to do is to remove the sleeve cuffs and then simply unpick this seam that goes from the sleeve cuff all the way down to the bottom hem of the dress, and then I should simply be able to add in my side panels, reattach the sleeve cuffs, and then hopefully it's going to be done. Okay, so I have the dress sides completely opened up all the way from the bottom hem through to the sleeve cuff. Now I know I said I was going to remove the sleeve cuffs, but I was thinking that if I don't have to, why should I, right? If I can cut a corner here and there, I'm definitely going to do that. Plus the fact that I really do want to make the sleeves a bit wider. And then if I just leave this as it is, hopefully it's going to have a little bit more of a puff here. We'll see, we'll see. So now I have to go grab my inserts and arrange them, then stitch them on. Okay, so I have my dress flipped inside out, and I think I'm going to start at the cuffs. So I'm just going to line up the folded edge here of my little insert with the sleeve cuff hem. And this is totally non-fraying fabric, which is fabulous because it means I don't have to fold over edges or try to finish off the edges. It's not going to fray. I mean, this is definitely from the 80s and it hasn't frayed at all yet. So I think it's pretty safe to say it's not going to fray. All right, so now that I have that part lined up at the sleeve cuff, I'm just going to line up the rest of the raw edge here, and now I'm simply going to go stitch this together all the way down through to the bottom hem. Okay, I have the first side stitched on, and it looks pretty awesome, if I do say so myself. Plus, I actually managed to give myself, say, another 3 millimeters here in addition to this. So I think this is going to fit me perfectly. Plus, I'm going to have a little bit of room once it is all stitched together. So now I'm simply going to go and fold that back over, line up the edges once again, and then stitch the other side together to the other side of my dress, and then repeat the whole process once again on the other chopped open side. So I now have both of my side inserts all stitched on, and it came out absolutely fantastic. Of course it did, of course. And even here underneath the arm, it is perfect all the way down the sleeve. And of course, right at the cuffs. How great did that come out? And I'm sure you want to see what it looks like on the inside here, especially at the cuffs. So you can see here, I just kind of trimmed that little bit of excess that was here on the sides. And it's absolutely perfect. I stitched the top bit here, and it's now just, I mean, I don't think you can get any better looking than how this looks here. I am so pleased with this. It is a little bit extra puffy here on the cuff, which is wonderful. So now let's go try this on and style it up. I truly hope you enjoyed that little revisit of 3 of my favorite upsizes, and absolutely let me know, first of all, which one was your favorite, which had the best outcome, do you think? And also, which one or 2 or 3 are you going to try yourself? I mean, come on, it has to be the blazer, right? It has to be the blazer. The next time you see a floofy bridesmaid's dress or party dress or whatever type of dress in the thrift shop that has that big full skirt, grab it, grab a blazer, and make those awesome statement sleeves. You will not regret it. I love that so much. I just wish I had somewhere to wear it other than, you know, going to the supermarket, because you do kind of get some weird looks sometimes. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I'll catch ya on the zigzag. Also, does anybody else enjoy wearing neckties as much as I do? I just think it really adds that little bit of oomph and uniqueness to just about any kind of button-up outfit that you might wear.
This is Confessions of a Refashionista.